There's going to be one of you that's listening to this right now, and nobody knows how heavy it's gotten for you, but you're still showing up, you're still providing, you're still doing what you're supposed to as a man. But, brother, on the inside, internally, you're dying, you're struggling, you're tired, you're carrying pressure you don't talk about, you're fighting thoughts that you don't say out loud. And the worst part is this: nobody sees it. You don't let them see it. Somebody asks you, "Hey, how you doing?" You say, "I'm good." Your wife doesn't see it, your kids, your buddies. You've been fighting this war of silence. And if you're being honest, it's starting to break you down. I'm back. I'm Paul. Hopefully, this isn't the first time that you guys are joining me on the Dominate Daily Dad podcast. Guys, it's been 4 months to the day since my last podcast episode, number 71, or better yet, part of season 2. And here it is. It's right before Good Friday. Easter's coming up, and I'm coming back. I disappeared because I was at war. And before I sat down in this chair to talk to you guys, I listened to my last podcast. And the title was "The Breakthrough is in the Breakdown." And I heard it in my voice. I was on a walk. I was fighting being sick, which is part of the story that I'll get into. I was struggling, man. I was telling you how pissed I was at 2025, looking back, reflecting, and seeing all what, 2025 had brought to my doorstep. And man, guys, I went down hard. And the end of 2025 hit me hard. Physically, I got super sick. The last episode, I was telling you that I was barfing my brains out, guys. That continued for the next 30, 40 days. Mentally, I just felt heavy, heavy, heavy pressure. And spiritually, man, I was being pulled in all sorts of different directions, all through December. Christmas, wasn't that great, to be honest with you guys. I was sick. I missed going to church with my family, and I was just fighting life. But more importantly, I was fighting myself. And in the last episode, I talked about it, that the breakthrough comes in the breakdown. And here I am, I'm 4 months removed, and I'm listening to that, and I was like, my gosh, it was right there. It was right there. In that last episode, I was in the middle of it, and I didn't know it. I knew something was off, and I was just fighting. And I was fighting myself, I was fighting my thoughts, I was fighting my emotions, my discipline, my faith. And guys, here's the part that almost nobody talks about. You can be showing up as a father, as a man, you could be providing, you can feel like you're leading your family, yet you're still losing, yet you're still a loser up here in your own mind. We as men, we've been lied to. We think that the battle's out there, right? The battle's outside of my mind, outside my body. The battle's out there. And to me, that could be further from the truth. We think the battle's out there. We think that, money, business, people, circumstances, family, friends, it's not. The real war is internal, and it's spiritual. As I reflect on the past 4 months of what I've been up to, and how listening to that last podcast that so many of you have downloaded. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yesterday it popped up on my phone, and it's like, hey, here's your podcast metrics. And it showed that, not only did that last episode that I did have the most amount of downloads, but it said that the podcast in of itself was up 430%. And I'm like, wow, like, you guys are still listening. You're still here. And I feel like I owe this to you. I feel like, it's been 4 months. Like, Paul, where the hell have you been? So, when I sit here and I say that the real war is internal, I'm like 40 some days from turning 41. The real war is internal. It's spiritual. I mean, guys, you can build a business, you can crush the workouts, you can do everything right, yet something's still off. And that's where I was. In that episode, I was sick. I said that my discipline was struggling. I certainly was not dominating daily. I hadn't gone for a walk in 3 weeks, I think I said. And surely there are moments that I didn't feel like myself. And there's times where there's moments where I was questioning what I was building, how I was showing up, and where I felt like I was slipping, and it was all in silence. And, I explained some of that in the podcast, but a lot of that nobody saw, including me. Like, I got so physically sick in December. I ended up, running like $1,000 worth of labs and blood panels and everything with the health clinic. And I I don't know the last time I was that sick. And the biggest thing for me was this. I lost my sense of smell about a week after that last episode. And that is something that has not happened to me since, the big thing that happened 6 years ago. But that was a fucking wake up call. It was a wake up call because the last time that happened outside of the big thing that happened 6 years ago was when I was super sick at the fire department. So once that actually happened, I was like, wow, this is serious. Like what my body is going through right now, this is serious. And, I'm sitting here today. I'm going to let you know, like, my smell's back. It's great. I'm not 100% still. I've been rebuilding. I've been battling and showing up, every day to get back to a place where I just want to feel good, you know? And it took the breakdown to have this breakthrough. So it's April. We're coming up on Easter. I just did an in-body scan, and I will say I'm in the best shape ever. I have great muscle mass. I'm not quite, at where I need to be body fat percentage wise. I got about 5 to 6 pounds to lose to drop some percentages there to be under 15%. But guys, at this moment, the the hurdles, the chaos, I will say is still there, but I feel so much more equipped to fight this battle because, physically I'm feeling better than I was the past few months. And so the war that we go through as men is completely internal. And the most dangerous man is the one who looks strong on the outside, but he's losing the war internally. And this is where it got real for me. Getting physically sick, I was missing work, I wasn't being able to show up and provide. And that's the point, man. Like, you don't lose yourself all at once, right? It's just these little things that keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. You lose it through small compromises. You lose it through small cuts and bruises, right? You slowly die and bleed out through these small wounds that you don't attend to. And as I reflect on 2025, after all this has happened, that's what I realized, man. I realized that, I got off track probably in August, and, I was still showing up, I was doing things, I was working out for the most part, and then by the time December hit, I had bled out. I had bled out mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Like, I had bled out because I didn't tend to the certain wounds that I had. I tend not to agree with this rise and grind hustle culture of work hard, work hard, work hard. It's like, no, you can do that and then you can't. And I was at that point. I was in bed. I was barfing my brains out. I didn't feel good. I lost my sense of smell. I couldn't make dinner for my family. I couldn't show up to the office and make money and support my team and my wife. Like, and that's what hurt. And I realized that it was just those small compromises over time. Maybe, maybe I wasn't walking as much physically. Maybe I wasn't as consistent with meal planning and supplementation. And maybe I wasn't as careful, watching my stress. And maybe I wasn't getting just the right night of sleep. And all that stuff adds up, man. But the biggest thing that I want you guys to understand is there is a silent killer of men. And I believe most, if not all men go through this and they say nothing. We know that suicides for men are out of control. Men make up 80% or more of the suicides. They make up all these things and you just don't lose your life all at once. And during this physical struggle, man, doubt started creeping in. My discipline definitely slipped. Faith became passive. And I had to face the hard truth of, you know, like I'm struggling. And guys, you know, some of you, assholes could probably be like, well, dominate daily, and you're talking about losing yourself. You're like, yeah, that's how we win. That's how we win as men, is not by showing up and beating our chest. Yeah, bro, I'm good. No, we show up as men by identifying our Achilles heel. We show up as men and go, hey, this right here, I recognize this and I need to show up and handle it. Because if you're a man right now, if you're a dad right now, you're a husband right now, and you just keep stuffing this shit down inside, you're going to end up in a place where I was. And I believe now that God was showing me, hey, you're missing all this stuff over here. You're missing the small moments with your family. You're missing the small moments with your wife. You're missing the relaxation, taking care of yourself by this hustle and grind culture and, you know, just get it done. Now, I'm not saying, I said this in the last episode, comfort's not biblical. Being comfortable is not a biblical value. And we all want comfort, right? Like, it's easier to be fat than it is to be fit. It's easier to be broke than it is to be rich. It's easier to avoid God and your calling for your life than it is to run into it. And I brought up this Bible verse. It's right here, Isaiah 43:2. We talked about walking through the fire, not getting burned. And in this moment, in this war, this internal war, God was showing me, hey, you need to handle these things for yourself because you can't keep going this way. And so, those small compromises of skipping prayer, being distracted at night, avoidance, those all start to stack. And as men, we like to isolate, we like to distract ourselves, we like to numb it, we like to stuff it down, we like to scroll, we like to work more, we like to watch something, we like to stay busy, we like to, do all these things except handle this one thing. And so, all you ego, chest pumping guys can sit there and say, "Oh, you're not a man. You're emotional, you're all that." Well, guess what? Let me tell you the truth. Distraction is how men slowly lose their life without realizing it. I see it all the time online. These guys, oh, they post, "My wife just said she wants a divorce out of nowhere." Really? Out of nowhere. I actually just had an interaction online with a guy the other day who was like, my wife said I'm irritable and I'm angry and I'm not. It's the same story, guys. This guy, you know, proceeds to tell everybody in the group that you know, his wife's pissed or telling him that he's always angry and he's irritable and he's no fun to be around and all this stuff, right? And I've been there. I get it. Totally get it. And then below that, he's like, "But I provide and I pay the bills and I do that." And my comment was raw. I was like, "Bro, just because you show up and you grind and you hustle and work your dick in the ground to provide for your family does not mean that you're connected. It does not mean that you're connected to her. It does not mean that you're connected to them. It does not mean that you're not connected to him. Just because you show up and make a living and provide for your family so that they can do the things they want to do and pay the bills doesn't give you this fucking hall pass to not put the effort in." "Well, Paul, you just said that, you skipped this, you got distracted." No, you're not hearing me. Hear me, brother. Providing and leadership is what God has called you to do as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a son. But how you do that and how you show up in truth is how you avoid crashing like I did for myself. You think you're fine. You're not. You're not going to break because life is hard. You've been given that by God as a man to carry heavy things, to endure hard things. I just went through a hell of a time. I explained it to you guys, yet I'm still here. I hopped on to do this, to talk with you guys. I had to disappear I had to go quiet. I had to rebuild in order to find the breakthrough. I had to break down. So this, in a sense, is part two from the last podcast. I had to run $1,000 in labs to figure out what the hell my body was telling me. And it wasn't good. I had to get my body right. I had to reset my mind. I had to recalibrate and reconnect with God, not in words, not in identity, not in ego, but in truth. I had to stop trying to win at everything around me. And I had to focus and start winning on what was inside of me. Because, we say this all the time in my business, if you lose your health, you lose everything. Your health starts to go haywire. That's the only problem that you have because everything else goes away. I know I've missed this. I know, I see you guys downloading and I see subscribers coming in. I fucking love it, man. Because I know that you guys are getting some sort of value from this. And that's why I do this. So we're going to move into weapon of the word. It's before Easter. I'm not going to give you some Easter prayer or Easter scripture, but I want to look at John 1:5. This is the New King James Version. And it says, "And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend." And for me, when I read scripture and we talk about darkness and light and all of this, it just reminds me and it grounds me that, listen, even in the darkest of times that you're going through as a man, as a father, as a husband, there's still light. Okay. And in order to see yourself through out of the darkness, you have to embrace the darkness to find the light. And darkness feels real. It's heavy, it's overwhelming, it's all consuming, but it doesn't win. It never has. And scripture tells us that. Darkness has never won and it never will. The light, Jesus, always wins. Always. It's not up for debate. So the problem isn't the darkness. The problem is men forgetting who they are and not accepting the truth of where they're at. Not accepting that you were not created to sit in the darkness. You are not created to be consumed by darkness. You were created to bring light. You were created to create. And brothers, when you carry that light, darkness, the enemy, the spiritual warfare, it doesn't stand a chance. So to close, let me ask you this. Where have you been sitting in the darkness? Where have you been letting the darkness consume you instead of confronting it?